Yeah, of course.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. My name is Bex. I'm the events coordinator here at Bookstore Magic, and we are so excited to have Irene Yu, Eric Kim, and Carolyn Yu with us tonight to celebrate Soju Party. I have a few housekeeping notes to go over. I hope you all got some soju before you sat down. If you didn't, you'll get it later. Don't stand up now. We'll be doing a hand-raised Q&A towards the end of this event. Think of your questions, all of them typed. We'll get them answered. Afterwards, Irene will be signing and personalizing near where you checked in, / where you got your drinks. So we'll let you know when we're to sign up for that when the time comes. If you're joining this virtual live stream, we'd love to encourage you to buy a copy of Soju Party online. Use the link in the description. If you're here, we'd love to encourage you to buy copies here. The more you buy, the more we get to reorder. Fall is upon us despite this weather. And what better way to celebrate than with soju? Yeah. Drinking with your friends. And the great book you'll be buying tonight, and we'll be buying many copies of, promises it promises late nights, including a section on hangovers. Whether you're entertaining at home or hitting the bar, this book is a party on the page. Star of tonight's show, Irene Yu is a food writer and the chef and co-owner. I'm so sorry. I didn't have any soju. I don't know why this is happening. Of Orion Bar in Brooklyn, raised in Los Angeles and Seoul. She graduated from the University of Pennsylvania and previously worked as a photo and video producer for Food Network. Her recipes, essays, and herself have been featured in many places, including the Korea Society and the Museum of Food and Drink in Dumbo. Eric Kim, conversation extraordinaire, is the New York Times food columnist and essayist born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. His debut cookbook, Korean American, which we also obviously have here for you to buy 6 copies of. That's what we have. So buy all 6 of them. We can order another 6. 100. I'm so sorry. His debut cookbook, Korean American, was an instant New York Times bestseller. His collection of essays, Spaghetti Junction, is forthcoming. From Crown Publishing, lives in New York with his rescue dog, Q. And our other great conversation extraordinaire you'll be hearing from a little bit later, Carolyn Yu, is a Korean American artist and writer based in Brooklyn. Her work has appeared in Honest History and has been exhibited at Harmon Projects. In her weekly newsletter, See You, she shares reflections and insights for a more authentic, sustainable, creative life. Without any further ado, please join me in the warmest welcome to Irene Kim.
Hello. I want to say thank you all so much for coming. I also want to apologize in advance because my baby is here. So if you hear some chatters, that's him. And if he starts screaming, then he can leave and go somewhere else. But apologies in advance. I also just wanted to start off with like a wee reading. It's from the chapter called Hometown Jujuju. When I imagine the dream house I will one day retire in, it looks a lot like the renovated hanok that Chi Pong lives in the Korean drama Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha, or Kenmaal Cha-Cha-Cha. It has paper-covered lights that hang from the ceiling, with vintage radios and old books lining the wooden shelves. But my favorite feature is the divider between his living space and his kitchen, adorned with large glasses of liquor. These jars are Hong's collection of tamgunju, or infused liquor. Tamgunju, also known as yaksul, or medicinal liquor, refers to any type of infused spirit, but is most often made with soju. You might see it at your harabaji's house, or at an old school restaurant. Long, thin jars with gold lids, spindly tentacles of ginseng or bellflower root tracing their walls. Tamgunju dates as far back as soju itself, when during the Goryeo dynasty, distilled soju was often mixed with medicinal ingredients to combat the damage caused by excessive drinking. So more alcohol with alcohol. Ever since, it's been a fantastic way to preserve roots, fruits, and even flowers, which slowly impart their fragrance and flavor to the alcohol they are submerged in. And
Congratulations.
thank you so much.
How does it feel?
Oh, so excited. So excited to be here talking with you.
Me too. It's been
My hype man.
I wanted to start with something to kind of highlight what's really special about this book. I have 2 questions for you. Why soju? And then the second question is, why is this book about so much more than soju?
I feel like soju is so representative of Korean culture and society. So it's like so pervasive. You can get it at like a convenience store. It's so cheap. It's you can get it in the morning, you get it at night. But also like the rituals of drinking it are very much reflective of that of Korean society. In Korean society, it's like so important to like respect your elders, respect each other, but also share with each other. And you really see that when you drink soju, most especially. So the way like we pour for each other and then coming together, sharing food, all that. So I feel like that it's like why it has to be soju, and then also why soju is so representative of like Korean drinking at large, I mean society at large.
Yeah, there's something really encyclopedic about this book. Like you open it up and you don't just learn about soju and drinking culture and what to eat with alcohol. It's also just everything else. It's like the manners, how to drink, who to drink with. You have every aspect of culture and etiquette, and I just thought that was so incredible. I wanted to ask you, what was that? Well, I know that's all in your head. Just it was already inherently in your head. But how did it feel getting it down on paper and being like, okay, you were probably like, am I missing anything? And you're like, nope.
That it was such a process because originally the impetus of this book was like about Korean cocktails, but I wanted this book to be so much more. I was like, there's so much like history and the culture of it. And then also like we were opening a bar and I wanted to share those recipes. And I was also like, there has to be section for drinking games and for hangovers. I was like, there's no way I can fit this all into one book. But I really have to give so much credit to my editor, Tom. He was so like encouraging, just be like, do all the things, put it down all on paper. I just wrote everything. And I thought for sure he would come back and be like, I think you should take this out and this out. But surprisingly, no. And I think he like really helped me kind of structure it into in the book it's structured like a night of Korean drinking. So there's like 1차, 2차, like first round, second round. The idea is that you kind of start chill and ease into it, and then you kind of crest into like the party, and then you sort of slide off into like, you know, your hangovers and then start all over again.
I do love that part, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the different chas. And I wanted to ask you, do you have a favorite cha? Like if you're going at it.
My favorite cha is the last cha. It's when you're like, oh, I want to do like one more drink, but I don't know if I want to go to another bar. Okay, like what if we stop at like a convenience store? Or like, oh, I have like alcohol at home. But it's also the most dangerous one because you're home. So then you're like, okay, well, you know, you don't have to, there's no decorum left to be had. So and then you wake up the next day and you're like, what happened?
I like how you say that. You're like, if you had later in the night, the etiquette kind of like gets less and less, you know, serious because you sort of forget about it. That's amazing. In terms of that fifth cha, I like this idea that, you know, you've already drank at so many different places. You've had dinner, but that fifth cha also still has food, and it means that it's like the reward for having been out that late. Which I think is hilarious. Can you describe the kind of food that is at that cha? Because I think when I think of you, I think of those kinds of foods. I feel like the end of the night, you love that kind of stuff.
I do.
I do too.
Yeah, I feel like that was something that stemmed from like high school and college, just like that feeling of like everyone's having such a good time, but then you're kind of getting a little hungry and maybe you don't want to get a little too drunk. So then like I always really loved making like big pots of ramen or big pots of like udon for people and just being like, here, I made this. I just want like a couple bites, but I want everyone to like share and eat that. So that's like the most kind of comforting food, I feel like. But I think that's what's so cool about Korean drinking is that food is so essential. One of the questions I've been getting a lot is just like, oh, like I want to really drink. And especially, you know, in this day and age, people aren't drinking as much. But that's why I think this book is so like relevant, is that like actually half of the recipes are food. And that was really important to me because when you do Korean drinking, you have to have food. You're not going to a bar and just like having cocktails. You have to, in Korea, there's actually a thing where, so you know, like America, you go to like a comedy club and you have like a drink minimum. In Korea, it's the opposite. You have a food minimum, so you actually have to order food. You can't just be like drinking $3 bottles of soju all night and calling it. Yeah.
Nice. I was thinking about how you're right. A lot of people there is sort of this like getting towards NA, you know, not drinking. culture right now, but that's why I love Koreans because they still drink, and I love drinking too. I just wanted to say that. And one thing is, I guess, okay. One thing I really loved about the book was all the times you mentioned a restaurant, and you're talking about moments that you've had in Korea. And I wanted to know how much did travel play in the research for this book and the inspiration?
I grew up going to Korea every year with my family. So my parents were Korean immigrants, and they took us and like 3 giant immigration bags to Korea every year to stay with my quite a feat with my grandparents every year. And so we actually like grew up spending a lot of our childhood in Korea. So I already have like one of the chapters in the book is called Chasing Taste Memories. And I think that is something like as a cook, a writer, like that I am always thinking about this like dish that I had growing up. Can I like recreate that like flavor profile or just like that feeling I had when I was like making it? And so I feel like I lost the train. What was the question again?
Yeah, it's okay. I did too. We're both like.
Yeah, what's happening?
I was just asking about the travel.
Oh, the travel part, yes. So yeah, I mean, like that's something I still continue to do is go to Korea pretty often. But I mean, honestly, like it came more from less of like going back to Korea and showcasing like, oh, here's how we do it in Korea, which is sort of where the book starts off. But a lot of the recipes are also an evolution. Like more like what are my like Korean American versions of drinking food or cocktails. I developed the recipes for this book concurrently with preparing for the bar. So a lot of the recipes that are at my bar, Orion Bar, and in this book are very similar. And a lot of the inspiration is very much the same.
Nice. So you get the book and the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And
if you don't want to make it at home, you can go to the bar. If you don't want to go out to the bar, make it at home.
I think that was my favorite chapter. I love the cocktail section where you're reimagining American classics. Like the Meche Old Fashioned is totally my kind of drink. And then there's a Spam cocktail. Can you just explain that one?
Okay. I was really obsessed with wanting to make a Spam cocktail. I really wanted to try fat washing, spam washing, which is when, so for like I think like 5 or 10 years ago, bacon washing bourbon was really popular. So it's basically you put like bacon or bacon fat and then you like freeze it. And then when you take off the fat, it is infused in the bourbon. So I try to do that with Spam. I do not recommend it. It's not that it's gross. It's just not doing anything for anybody. So after a lot of failed attempts, I decided to go back to just like, what's the essence of Spam? Like it's kind of island. It's a little bit spicy. It's a little bit smoky. So I wanted to infuse that. So it's actually ended up being a little bit more of a tiki drink. My favorite part and ingredient is this gochugaru rice syrup, which gives it a little bit of like a malty and again, that like spicy, smoky. And then the little key ingredient that I found was a little dash of liquid smoke. Just really makes it like, oh yeah, it gives you the Spam vibes.
Cool, I love that. Well, on that question, you know, this book has a bunch of beautiful recipes, of course. I wanted to ask you how you felt. Which do you like doing more, the recipe development or all the history writing, the memoir writing? There's a lot of writing in this and research and history. Which did you enjoy more?
I think I like the writing more. I think with recipe development, like it's just like sometimes it's really hard if you're like not nailing a flavor. So I'm a little bit like, if I get it on the first try, then I'm really excited, but I'm not someone like, I don't think I could ever write like a baking book because like having to like bake and test something 10 times. And then what are you gonna do with all that cake? Like I love baking, but baking, it's too much.
It is too much. There's too much food in your fridge when you have to develop recipes.
Exactly.
What was the hardest recipe to develop?
Ooh.
One that took the most tries.
I think for me, there's a nakji somyeon recipe. So nakji somyeon is like a spicy octopus dish that's served with like these wheat noodles. And it's something that's pretty common at like Korean pochas or like pretty popular drinking food, and it's something that I ate a lot with my aunts actually. And I was really trying to like nail this flavor, but also like octopus cookery is kind of hard, and then there's just different types of like octopus to get. And so yeah, just like sort of that was one that took like 4 or 5 times over the course of like a couple years.
It was worth it though, because I like that head note a lot. It's like a mini essay. I feel like you
Yeah.
talk about why the octopus is like smaller.
Yeah, it's a really unique octopus. There's like Korean nakji. It's like a lot smaller than your like Spanish style octopus. And then what's really fun about this recipe too is like for the photo, it's my mom and my dad were both a part of some of the photo shoot. So it's my mom's hands like mixing it. So when you get it at like a restaurant, they give you like a plastic glove and you have to like mix the octopus and the noodles all together. So it's her hand doing it, and it was extra special because my mom and my aunt are obviously sisters, but they're also twins. So it was like kind of a really sweet like family connection.
I love how everyone was like, oh. I was gonna ask this in the beginning, but forgot. But I was gonna ask what is soju, but I also wanted to ask the audience who's never had soju. Oh wow, you've all had soju. Oh, that's great. So
well, if you haven't,
we have some.
We have some in the back. Oh yeah, and I also forgot to mention. I want to give a special shout out to Jinro's, my tour sponsor. So we have Jinro here today for you to try. And also, please feel free to take the shot glasses. It's really hard to get soju glasses, so there's one for everyone.
Nice. I think I do want to ask, what is soju? Can we define it?
So that's a tough question.
And why is it different than like doing shots of vodka?
Yes. Okay. So soju is traditionally a Korean distilled liquor that's made with rice and nuruk, which is a Korean fermentation starter, and water. But during the Japanese occupation and the Korean War, it got really industrialized. So the green bottle soju that you see today it's mostly like ethanol that's mixed with additives and sweeteners. So it's very much like a manufactured product that doesn't necessarily taste like traditional like 전통 soju. But now, similar to the looping back to like fermentation and sourdough and the rise of that sort of old school method again, there is a return to traditional soju that's happening. So there's a lot of really fun like younger makers who are making soju. So the traditional soju is usually a little bit higher proof, like 30 to 40%. The green bottle soju that you see most often at supermarkets is like 12 to 16%. So it's the same alcohol percentage as wine. So if you're doing shots of wine, you can, drink a lot of shots.
The whole bottle.
So people are like, oh my God, Koreans drink so much. And I'm like, yeah, but it's like half the alcohol percentage of vodka and then some.
That really shows you that it's the culture of drinking that is so important in the context of soju. And I just love the way you answer that. Shows you that soju is this like entry point into learning so much more about the culture of Korean society. I like how you said society. Yeah, it's like a sociological thing.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. I wanted to ask you. I like what you said about the rules and hierarchy, because when you're drinking, the point of social drinking in Korea, I was wondering if you could explain that a little bit. And also, I think for that part, I like what you said for the readers. Choose the rules you like and forget the ones you don't. And how do you drink with your friends?
So in American culture, you never it's rude to ask your age. You're never like, oh, how old are you? This is how old I am. But in Korean culture, that's like the first thing you ask. Like, it's so funny because you're like, okay, how old are you? Like, what's your blood type? You're like, why are you asking all these personal questions? Or you're like, well, my identity. But the reason for that is because there is like an inherent establishing of hierarchy that needs to happen when you meet someone for the first time. So when you sit down to drink with someone or meet for someone for the first time, there is a little bit of what's your name? How oh, what year were you born? Oh, okay, so I'm older than you, so that establishes that you have to be respectful to me or like vice versa. And that's like a Korean society thing. So I think that's what's like really fun about like about soju in general is that like you have to sit down and then do that.
Yeah.
And then you pour for the people older than you. You never pour your own drink. But then as you get drunk, you're like, whatever, we're friends. Let's drop the honorifics. Let's just like all hang out and be chill. And then it's like it becomes a really bonding experience because you've established these like very rigid structures to start. So then it just feels really refreshing when you get to overcome them.
I thought about this in a new way for the first time after watching the first episode of the new K-drama Bon Appetit.
Oh yeah, I saw you were watching that.
Yeah, are you watching that?
No, I want to.
It's really good.
Yeah.
But there's a scene where that's the first thing these two women say to like figure out with each other. And even though being older means that the younger person has to give respect, I realized that it also means that it puts the burden or responsibility on the older person to then take care of the younger person.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
That's something that I totally didn't think about. I never thought about while being Korean.
Yeah, it's not about like, oh, like go do this for me or like ordering them around. It's very much like, oh, I'm responsible for taking care of you. And so I think there is like a really nice, like in Korean, it's called chong, like this feeling of like, let me take care of you. Let me make sure you're fed, like, and you're having a good time and you're okay, kind of.
Oh, I love that. Okay, perfect. Oh my God, the thing I learned, I learned a lot by reading your book, but one thing that I didn't know was why you create the bubbles or the cream in a somek. Why you release the, wait, can you
release the gas? Yeah, so again, that's like a very non-American thing that Koreans do is like, I feel like Americans are so like, you want the head, but you don't want to like over like release the carbonation because you want a little bit of that. But Koreans,
Oh, sorry, I was just thinking the
Oh
bubbles.
yeah, the bubbles. But Koreans are really obsessed with releasing as much of that gas as possible. And I guess the reason is because that like when you drink it, you feel less full because that carbonation isn't sort of popping in your stomach. And I'm not sure how much that is true, but you know, it's still beer. You know?
It makes sense. What we're talking about is like putting a shot of soju in a glass of beer, and that's like a drink. And that, and when you do drink that, it is smoother than just drinking either by itself.
Yeah, and that's like a really interesting Korean thing. Is like soju, it tastes like very neutral, but also kind of alcoholic. So for some people, they're like, it tastes like nothing. Some people are like, oh, it's a little too boozy for me. But then some people don't really like to drink beer because they're like, oh, it's too filling. It's not boozy enough. So Koreans were like, what if we put them together? And so somek is soju and mekju put together. So somek, it's like a portmanteau. And there is a whole world of mixing, whether it's ratios of how much soju you should put in your beer, of like mixing it, like you can cream them together in different ways, or like and then you have to like agitate the foam so that it like mixes really well together. They make like somek towers and stuff. So it's a whole culture.
I love it. And it's dangerous too. You're like drinking this really smooth beer, but it's like way more alcoholic. It's great. Okay, I think we should bring up Carolyn.
Yes.
So Carolyn illustrated the book.
Yes, and Carolyn's also my sister.
And that's Irene's son.
And this is my. Oh, here he comes. Can I give you this?
Yeah.
I hope it's okay if he joins too.
Oh, it's more than okay. It's amazing. Okay, I wanted to ask. I'm gonna ask 2 questions, and then we're gonna go to audience questions. So make sure you think of something. This is for both of you. You can answer this. How do you feel about Hallyu, the Korean wave, and the mainstreaming of Korean culture?
I'll let you take it. So, I think I've been getting this question a lot too, in terms of like, hello. This is like Stephen Curry moment. Of like people have been asking a lot, like, oh, like what do you think about like the connection of like K-dramas or K-pop? And I mean like K-pop Demon Hunters, which is like Arthur's favorite song. But I think it's so connected because I've been really seeing a trend and increase in not only Korean food, which has been going on for a long time, of course, But now Korean alcohol, people are seeing those like romantic scenes in K-dramas of people like crying over their heartbreak and like drinking at like a pocha and having like their soju and their anju and stuff. So I feel like that's also part of why I wanted to write this book and like explain to people like this is the culture behind it. Here's why we're like always like pouring for ourselves and stuff.
Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I wanted to add that, I think sometimes, Koreans can feel kind of like gatekeepy about Hallyu and the fact that, like, it's our secret, like, why is everyone so into it now? But I just think about, like, how accessible it is to buy soju now. Like, it's in literally every bodega, every grocery store. And I remember during, like, my personal drinking days in college, like, buying soju required, like, a 40-minute bus ride to the Korean Mart in Oakland. It was like a whole ordeal. So I'm just glad that it's made so much of our culture so much more accessible.
And it means that people he's so cute. And it means that we get books like this that show Korean culture front and center. They're on the shelves, and everyone gets to learn about this hidden culture. It's a culture that's like in your brain. It's like not many people have written it down. Maybe no one's written it down. So this is like amazing.
Yeah, that's was really interesting to me, the fact that like nobody had written a book like this before. I was like, surely someone must have. There's like so many like Japanese cocktail books, Japanese alcohol books. And like you were like one of the first people to write like a Korean food cookbook, and there's been so much more ever since, which has been amazing. And even like in Korea, there's like a few. When I was doing research, one of the things I did was I went and found and read a lot of like Korean language soju / drinking books, and just seeing like how they talk about it. And so that was really interesting to sort of like read that and fold that into it, and then to sort of to give context to a more American audience, but then also like put my spin on it. Like, these cocktails that are in here are very much like my / like our, like, cause my husband is the beverage director at Orion Bar, so he makes all the cocktails here. So that's something that like we created together, and being able to share that has been really special.
That's lovely. Okay, I said before that this book is encyclopedic. You're going to learn about more than soju. And when you get to the end, it doesn't end there. It's like all of the drinking games. And that's where the animations or the illustrations get really freaking cute. Oh, where are they? I was wondering if you guys could talk about that collaboration process. Where is it?
Yeah. So Irene had, said from the get-go, she like really wanted me to illustrate her book because there was a lot of material that wasn't just the recipes. And, usually a cookbook relies heavily on photography to show the beautiful food or the drinks. But yeah, we really wanted to bring in like some fun, vibes for the drinking games. I just like have so many personal memories, like having so much fun playing drinking games. I don't even like drinking, but like doing
you
this
actually
project,
taught me some of these drinking games.
I did. And yeah, I think I just really wanted to like bring that, childhood playful vibe of drinking games that you get to tap into. And I feel like that's so unique to our culture because, I don't know, like the American type of drinking games can kind of be more competitive, but I think for Korean drinking games, it's so communal, it's so easy, and there's just like, and it goes very quickly, so you do a lot more drinking. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that playful spirit to the book. I'm glad Irene invited me to do it.
It was perfect because truly, like, even though Carolyn is 5 years younger than me, she actually taught me a lot about Korean drinking. Because she did a lot more of it in college than I did. So I was a little bit more of a noob in comparison at the time. So I remember she taught me like the apata game, which then became very popular recently with the Rose and Bruno Mars song. And it was like, of course, like, I think like those things are really hard to portray in a photo. And I thought like an illustration would make a lot of sense to illustrate not only the drinking games, but in more of the front matter. There's a lot of like how to make somek, or like just like what makgeolli is and how that's distilled, or like a map of like Korea showcasing like where all the different sojus come from and things like that. And so I was we were so like professional in our interaction. I remember like looking back at our emails, like my agent was like, "Oh, you should have her do like was like the test or
The draft project.
the draft
Yeah.
project." I was like, "Oh, that's a good idea," because I think we were a little bit both like, "Is this a good idea?" Because like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to. I don't want to be like tell my sister like, "Oh, this sucks," and she don't want to be like, "Oh, like like that push and pull you often have when you're working with like a vendor." But like it was such a dream. Every photo, I mean, every illustration was so like spot on.
While we're here, I want to ask about the photography, and do you want to kind of talk about the food styling and like the art direction? I want to know how you made this book come to life visually.
Yeah, so the photography was done by my friend Hemi. She is an amazing photographer, and like she's someone I always had in mind that I wanted to work on my book. She has such a vibrant style, and she's also Korean, so she's been drinking for longer than I have, so she also like really gets it. And for the food styling, it was Eugene Joe. He's someone I've like admired in the industry for a long time. I actually like my background is like as a photo producer, so it's like really important to me like who I work with and the whole process. But for me, like that's like the clincher is like Maggie DeMarco's prop styling. This photo is a great example because like every recipe I had some like inspo things, and like this one I like it was like some like 17 hip hop like music video that I like just dropped in on the link, and then she like watched it and like pulled all those references and then like made it like it was like the perfect mix of like ajoshi, sort of like old man meets like kind of modern, a little bit more hip. So there's just so much like fun pattern play. So I think she was really able to like bridge that gap between like old school Korean drinking with sort of a more modern touch. And I think the other thing that was really interesting was sort of marrying the photography style with the illustration, because I think at first we were both very like not sure if like the two would mesh well together. So you want to talk a little more about that?
Yeah, I think so. Irene had come up with like because of her photo background, she had put together like a very, professional mood board for the photography and had a very clear vision for that. I think for the illustrations, she was more like, oh, I don't know, like what's gonna happen.
Because I never worked with an illustrator before.
For sure. So I think I had taken all of her inspiration that she had collected. I knew that she wanted a Soju party to feel very vibrant, like very messy, like the sort of chaos at the end of the night. And so I really gravitated, like one of the first things I was tasked to do was put together a color palette for my illustrations, which ended up being the foundation for the book design as well. So yeah, I just really look to modern Korean illustrators that I love that use a lot of like bold primary colors. I think anything that like catches the vibrant eye and all of that, I think is what makes it like tie back to the photography, because it has so much color and life in it.
Yeah, I feel like that's what's really cool about working on a book like this. Is like for me, it was like a year of staring at like a Microsoft Word doc, and then my eyes bleeding from all the rounds of edits, and then seeing it like come to life. Like, so the first part of the project was working with Carolyn on the illustrations, and then just really that I think also really helped me to visualize a lot of like the history and the explanation and stuff that's in the beginning. And then that's when we were like, oh, the drinking games has to be its own chapter. Like, wouldn't it be so cute to really like give it its moment? And like Knopf, the publisher, was great. They even made like coasters that I have at the bar, so people can play the drinking games at the bar and promote the book. I was like, oh my God, the synergy.
Nice.
And then and then working with Hemi on the photography, like once you start to see like the book and also just interpret the book through someone else's vision, like I think that's so fun. It's like I couldn't imagine what it looked like until someone did it for me almost. And so that's why it was like so valuable, like working with Carolyn and also with Hemi and Eugene and Maggie to like make the whole vision come to life and also put so much of themselves into it.
Totally. We're gonna go to audience questions. Does anyone have anything they want to ask?
What's your most nostalgic dish in the book? And if you don't mind sharing, what memory is it tied to?
What's your most nostalgic book recipe in the book, and would you please share the memory tied to it?
For me, I think it's the haejanguk recipe. I always thought it was so funny that our mom loves haejanguk. Our mom does not drink. So haejanguk, to clarify, is hangover soup. It's these places that are open like 24 hours in Korea. So it means you can go for like at 10 a.m. and get like a really hearty lunch. But mostly it's just like old men and like grandpas like drinking soju to feed their hangover whilst just like sweating over a bowl of this. And just like our mom really loves it. So she would take us to haejanguk restaurants all the time. So that like, it's just such a funny memory because it was something I remember doing so much as a kid with our mom, being surrounded by like old men drinking. And then I was like, oh, I want to recreate that.
Anything else? Any more questions for Irene or Carolyn? Back there.
What was the most surprising part about writing this book for you, process-wise?
What was the most surprising part about writing this book, process-wise?
I think I was really surprised at how smooth of a process it was for me. Honestly, like I think like I had a lot going on while I was writing this book. I was opening a bar. I saw that I had a baby. And then I was writing this book, and I mentioned earlier, like I was like, oh, maybe I can write all of this stuff. Will it all fit into a book? And then like, like my editor, Tom, and like my agent, everyone was just so like Knopf in general, like everyone was just like, yes, do that. And I was like, okay, are we sure? And so yeah, it's just like so amazing to see it become like exactly the book that I wanted it to be. So I have like no regrets, nothing that I feel like I missed or wished I could have fixed or added, or like saving for a second book or that sort of thing. I was like, it's truly like the story I wanted to tell, not only for me, but about like the culture in general. And so I feel really honored to be able to have this opportunity to be like a bit of a spokesperson for just this part of like Korean culture. I'd love if you also answered the question.
Sure. I think for me, being a part of this like massive collaboration and seeing everything come together was really crazy. I think when you work on just like one part of a book and then kind of trust that it will go to other people and that they'll like carry forth your vision. And of course, Irene was overseeing the whole thing, so I very much trusted her. But it was just wild to see like all of these different people come together and make it all cohesive somehow.
Any other questions?
I mean, in terms of like the recipes, like with the food and the drinks, because there's so much tradition with it, was there any like hesitation in trying to stay more traditional versus being a little bit more modern and giving it your twist? Like, was there anything specific that maybe you didn't want to touch at all and just keep it as traditional as possible?
Nice. There's a question about recipes, the recipes in here, and how you approach this conflict of traditional versus modernizing.
Yeah, so that's something I feel like that's like a tension I've been exploring for a long time. So originally I started doing whatever it is I'm doing as a pop-up called You Eating. And it's because I really wanted to explore like the traditional Korean food that our mom made us growing up and that I was having in Korea, with just like all the other foods I was experiencing as I was like getting older and going out into the world. And so like, again, like chasing those taste memories, but putting my own like comfort, cravings and stuff into that. So that I did so many pop-ups. I think that was something that I really enjoy like exploring. And then in the book, there were certain things that I was like, I really want to like share a classic recipe. And then there were also some favorite sort of more like fusion or like You Eating recipes that I knew like definitely had to go into the book, like the kimchi carbonara is something I've been making various versions of. Like I remember like when you were editor of Food 52, we worked together on the kimchi carbonara piece, and then the kimchi carbonara is also something I like made a YouTube video, and then it's also at my bar, and then there's this recipe.
It's your single.
Yeah, exactly. I just keep remixing it coming out.
Yeah. On that, I want to ask, which traditional recipe did you develop and like learn something you didn't think you would learn from?
I would say like there's some traditional recipes like that I kept really as is, like 해장국. I went really classic. A lot of the hangover stuff. The 콩나물국, I went very simple, or like spicy clam soup. That's one of my favorites. So that I wanted to just try and like nail the clean sort of spicy briny flavor that I really love there. Um, and then yeah, I think we were able to like I was able to like play a little bit more with like the drink recipes, and then have yeah, that was like an interesting thing to explore that worked a lot with Tom, my editor, on in terms of like, okay, like what's more like traditional that I'm introducing to like a new audience versus like, oh, this is my spin on something that let me explain what it is and then here's why it's my spin on it.
It seems like we have a lot of questions. That's exciting. I wanted to ask though, I just realized we have Irene's sister, so we should ask her, what was she like as a kid? And like, did you like the lead up to this moment, the debut of her, cookbook? I guess I wanted to ask you like how you felt about that. Any secrets?
I mean, Irene's personality-wise has always been the way she is, like so generous, kind, all that. In terms of writing this book, though, could absolutely not have predicted, because I think growing up, she like didn't even eat kimchi at like the table.
Oh no!
Interesting.
So yeah, I think it, as every probably Asian American person knows, like it's a whole journey to like kind of befriend your culture. And so I think for Irene that really happened after college, meeting folks here, meeting a lot of people like with Korean food, and like really entering that whole relationship with you eating. So it's really lovely to see this culmination of that book. But yeah, I absolutely would not have predicted. But in terms of the soju drinking part, very consistent.
More questions? 2 more questions? Hi.
Was there a recipe that like took an unexpected turn or was like a happy accident when you were developing?
Was there a recipe that took a happy turn while you were developing? Happy accident.
Oh, one of my most surprising recipes in that way is the kimchi bugak. So bugak, kimbugak is like dried seaweed with like a glutinous paste on it. And I was like, what if you dried kimchi? I was just got into my head. I was like, I wanted to do like dehydrated kimchi and like fold that flavor in. And so in the book, the recipe, it's like the dried seaweed or kim with like kimchi and then rice paper on top, and then you like dehydrate that and you deep fry it. So it's like a little bit fussy because you have to wait a long time, but it's so rewarding because it's so satisfying when you like deep fry rice paper and it's just like crisps up and it gets those like super like textured airy bubbles. And that it's like one of those, it's like every time I make it I'm like, oh, I should have made like 10 times this recipe, because I could just like eat it, crush it all at once. But then it's also, I'm just like, oh, but it took a while because you have to wait to dehydrate it.
One more? Yes. Yeah.
So Carolyn had mentioned that you wanted a vibrant kind of vibe to the book. I'm curious, how do you go about living a vibrant life? And I guess life philosophy for yourself.
Wow.
How do you go about living a vibrant life, a vibrant philosophy in line with the colors of this book?
Oh wow, such a deep question. Thank you. I think it's just like really leaning into what you are curious about and pay attention to, and letting that kind of guide whatever you do in your life. Hopefully that's outside of just scrolling on social media or something. So yeah, things like books I think have always been a foundation for that kind of vibrancy. Watching movies, like lots of media, of course, have to endorse that. But yeah, I want to know if Irene has anything to add as well.
Oh, I feel like for me it's just really I feel like for me like prioritize a lot of just like really enjoying the moment as you're doing it. I think that's something that I like decided I wanted to do when I was really young, and just be like kind of like a version of no regrets, but not like not regretting what you didn't do, and just really enjoying the path that you're on, because there's like so many paths that you could take. But whatever the journey that you're on will take you to where you're like meant to go. So I think if you just enjoy the journey, then you'll have a lot of fun doing it.
I feel like with that, we can go to the signing. Thank you all for coming, and congratulations, Irene and Carolyn.
Thank you so much. Oh, yeah.
Just a few quick things before we jump to the signing line. You all got raffle tickets for some various goodie bags that Irene made that we definitely poked through and are really good. So Irene's gonna pull those now, and then you can get them, exchange them through the signing line.
Yes. All right, I'll announce the numbers really quickly. I want to say thank you again to my generous tour sponsor, Jinro. There's a lot of really fun Jinro merch in the bag, so please enjoy. And even if you don't win, take a Jinro Soju glass for your future Soju party. All right, I got just the last three numbers. The first three are all the same. 104. Yay, Alice. 079. Yay! 081. Yay! And 103. Yeah! Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. Thanks to Irene and Eric.
Thank you.
For joining us, celebrating with us. There's still a live stream. You can buy copies of the book, link in the description. If you're here, don't go just yet. I have a couple more things. Thank you so much. You can buy books at the front. You can buy Eric's book. You can buy every copy of all the books that are at the front. I don't want to show them tomorrow. That's all. And my coworkers were so lovely and are pointing towards where the signing is going to be happening. We moved the Soju to the library cart. So you can still partake, but it's a library card, so be careful. And now we're gonna go back there, but I'm gonna be very chill as I take Irene back. We're gonna just sit and be chill for 5 seconds.
Okay.
And then we'll be back there, and then you're gonna line up along the wall and down the center aisle, and make sure to grab your belongings because we pick up the chairs pretty quickly. Thank you.
Can I take a quick photo? Oh, wait, will you take a quick photo of me? Wait, can you take a quick photo of all three of us real quick? We'll do a quick one. Sorry, we're going to block the live stream now. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, got my phone. Here we go.